Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out to Adrian Quintana, Alistair Main, Billy Highvault, Burn Fat till my stomach is as flat as the earth, Chow Young Cat, Dank, David Wayne Foster, David Rakia Gifford, Edwin Johnson, Felix Hung, Fireball X, God Rockin', Jeranism, Joshua Balsimo, Kirsten Smith, Life is Short, Matt, Michael, Nyby, Paige, Qatar Craig, Reinhardt, Renee, Sally Ballis, Sam Hine, Skeptic936, Texas Mike, theflatearthchannel.com, Tina Baker, and Tom Herkin. So massive shout outs to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. We are joined by a fair few people, as I'm a little bit late starting the show, so I've got an instant guest list on both Discord and G+. So hello to, I'll say on G+, I've only got you in G+, Righteous. How you doing?
Good morning, Nathan.
Good morning, good morning. About 5 or 6 minutes and we'll go live.
All right.
Thanks for moving everyone into the live stream. Hey, 10th man.
Miracle.
You managed to get into the G+ hangout today.
Yep. Thank you. Good morning, all.
I'm going to leave you to it for a bit because I haven't actually scheduled the show yet, so I need to do that. So I'll put myself on mute.
All
Hopefully you'll chat amongst yourselves.
Hey, Righteous.
Morning, tough man.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I was thinking of getting some tea, but it looks like nobody else is talking.
Go get some tea. I just got some coffee.
Okay, I'll be back. There's some guys in Discord you can chat with.
Yeah, come on over. Let's say hello.
Do I need to unmute them?
No.
Oh, okay.
Good morning, Discord. Barely caught you. Say that again, Discord. Yeah, you're breaking up.
Yeah, my mic is a little bit low.
Oh, there you go. Sound much better. So who are you?
I was trying to get Righteous to give you.
Say that again. Yeah, your mic's was working fine, but not anymore.
Yeah, my name is Redman.
Hey, Redman. Yeah, so yeah, you're the only one off mute right now.
I'm around. I'm just sharing the show at the moment.
Yeah, everybody else.
So where are you calling from? Or where do you call home, Redman? Okay.
Okie dokie then.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
that'll be
was
that then.
That was it. That was as technical friendly as we got.
Maybe he was conscious of doxing himself.
Well, saying where you're from is not compete unless Redman is the only guy in that place.
Be in
I'm
jail.
from Georgia.
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 Ah, okay.
Awesome.
I've been to Georgia.
Yeah, I like Georgia. I've been there many times. That's where chocolate is at the moment. Georgia, chocolate saying.
He's
Probably about
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's just having terrible mic issues.
I say chocolate's from New York, though, isn't he?
Well, yeah, but he's currently in
Yeah.
Georgia.
Not that he has a particularly strong New York accent. I wouldn't have said.
It was funny yesterday. I was traveling most of the day, and I was trying to catch QE's show as much as I could. I had a few stops, and so obviously I had to pause it. And then when I get back on, I'm at that point, and the show has still been going on. So, not knowing the full context of everything, all I hear at the end of the show is, "Meet you at Joe's bar." So, being me, I say, "Hey, I went to Joe's bar. No one's here," and just as a joke, right? And then, then I even played another joke. Well, the show was pre-recorded, so even if I went, they wouldn't have been there.
Right, it was quite an old show. Good show,
It
though.
was an old show,
Yeah, good show.
but
It's
I'm gonna go
interesting.
listen to it again.
It's interesting seeing Robert Pisano in the driving seat because he was like hosting the show, wasn't he?
Yeah, I've just the last two shows I've gone to know Robert Pisano.
Hey guys,
Hey.
Good morning.
can we not have a show where we don't talk about Coriolis today?
Yeah, sure. Of
Yeah,
Can we have a show where you question me about refraction?
course.
Yeah. Are
I
you
know
a globe
exactly
earther?
what it's doing. What's happening to the light as it travels from point A to point B.
Excellent. Love to hear all about it.
Which side are you on? Are you on our side or their side?
Right. Well, I need someone to argue against. Why does the light bend?
It doesn't bend. It
Yeah, it's
deviates
good.
straight.
I think
I
Anthony
know it doesn't. I know it doesn't bend down, but I want to know if I want to hear someone's argument for why it would bend down. I need to hear a competent.
Do you wanna when we start live, Anthony? Do you wanna take the reins
Yeah.
on that one?
Yeah.
Via dirty air, you're getting ejected.
Yeah. I see Travis is trying to rebrand Dirty Air as the
Yeah.
band stuff.
Doesn't he realise that? I know he's calling it the ether band, right? But shout out to Travis. You know, good on you. He's out there with his camera, he's doing his stuff. But by the same token, he's like, weren't you around when we were discussing? I know it was actually labelled that dirty air. You know, it has considerably evolved since then, wouldn't you say, Anthony?
Yeah, because we didn't know what it was. We knew that it wasn't like it was optical, whatever it was, but we didn't know what it was. But it's definitely not the curve of the Earth. So we didn't have a word to describe it, but there's clearly something there. So I just called it dirty air because it just looked like a layer of shimmer or mirage. And whatever that is, that formed loads of discussion. And Travis just wants to make it his own, like Arwin wants to make, like the optical slant his own. Everybody wants to put their name to something.
Right. Well, I was going to say that's might be a journey of discovery that people are going through hand in hand with Travis. In which case, my hat is off to him. It's like great.
Yeah. Still going to be
Do you
dirty
want
air.
a bit of an overview on?
Yeah, well, I'm just about to start the live show.
Do you
so
guys know why? Like,
I will get to you. I promise. What was your name? Is it Rapper? How do you say your name?
like a CH. Just forget the.
That you cut off at the beginning of it. Say something before you say it, just so it doesn't cut it off.
Like a CH.
Chapper.
Chapper. It's because it's grey and it's so small on my high resolution screen that I can't read any of the names.
Just pretend the Z's a H. And
Okay. Still don't know how to say it.
Chip.
Chep.
Just pretend. No, he said
My
just pretend it's
assertion
an
I'll be making is
Chipper.
light refracts upwards under normal atmospheric conditions for the simple fact that refraction occurs when there's a change in temperature, not a consistent temperature.
Chipper.
The air that's in contact with the ground or the water is a consistent temperature.
I'm gonna.
As soon as you go up in altitude, it reduces the temperature, but it also
hello.
is a change in temperature. Go ahead.
Hello. I'm trying to start
Yo.
the live show. Hello.
Oh, you are.
I will introduce
Hey.
what you want to talk about. I promise I won't forget about you. But I'm going to try and start the live show again.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Sleeping Warrior, Righteous Force, 10th Man, and Chocolate Sane in G+. How are you all doing?
Yo,
Good morning,
Good,
doing
good.
well.
Hello. We're also joined by a whole bunch of people, including, hope I get the name right, Chapper, who's going to talk a bit about refraction after we get through the housekeeping. So I won't forget your promise, Chapper, but we'll get to you after housekeeping. So, any signs of Earth curvature?
Not from
No.
Arizona.
No signs of Earth curve. Do you know what, Nathan? I was listening to Jose's chat the other day, and Channel Q claims that she's got evidence of Earth curve, gravity, axial rotation. He read through about, I think it was 3-4 of the housekeeping questions, and she just sat there and went, yeah. So Channel Q, if you're out there listening, I'd like to see the evidence that you accept for Earth curve, R, axial rotation, gravity, because I'm going to put it to everybody that you don't actually have any evidence, and you were just going, yeah, like a sheep. So feel free, Channel Q, to present some evidence.
Didn't Channel Q give up and disappear? That was last I heard of her.
Yeah, she fell out with Jose for something. I don't know exactly what it was. It was something to do with Tim Osman, I think. I'm not sure what it was. But she was back on his show. I was surprised.
I see. Hey, Armin.
Hello.
Hopefully this won't get too drawn out. Any signs of axial rotation?
No.
No.
Any oh, God. Ranty's desperate to get in on that one, clearly.
Of course.
Hello, Ranty. Subtle entrance.
Hello.
Hello. Good to have you. Any scientific evidence of gravity? You up a ladder
No.
at the moment?
Anyone there?
Can you not hear us? Hello? Oh, I've got a Skype issue. I'll have to sort that out. Okay. Any signs of any scientific evidence of gravity?
Gravity doesn't exist. They've known for some time that gravity does not exist. It's time to start yelling it. Dr. Verlinde from University of Amsterdam. He's a PhD in physics. So he knows it. And they've known for a long time that gravity doesn't exist.
I second that.
Wow. If you're not talking on Discord, please can you keep yourself on mute? Hello, Ranty. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, how are you?
Perfect. Yeah, since that reset, I just forgot to do Skype. So there we go, done now. Very good.
Good stuff.
Try and keep your background noise to a minimum.
Oh, right. Yeah, sure. No worries. I'm at work. You know what it's like.
Okie dokie. Any evidence of the
Are we live
distance
now?
that...
Oh, yes, we are.
Yes, we are indeed live. It's nice to see you. So you're on the ball. I can tell. It's been a long day for you, I can tell.
It's been a long week.
Any... Well, I've forgotten where the hell we are. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No.
No.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No. Just a hole 8 miles deep.
Fairy tale.
That's not very far. 8 miles deep is not very far.
It isn't.
You know, let's think about that.
Well, you could drill that with a very simple borehole, like a water bore sort of thing. Just keep going down. That's what they call the borehole is. It's only like a foot wide or less.
Especially to base conclusions upon.
Indeed. Any evidence of the presupposition itself, the R value?
No.
No R value.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon for all the fundamentalist religious zealots who believe the sky is a vacuum known as outer space?
It's astonishing how many ballers just look past this one, Nathan.
Say again?
It's astonishing how many ballers just look past this one. They just don't see it as an issue. And I'm like, guys, answer the question. How do you have gas pressure? And they just won't do it. They just ignore it.
There is a huge preponderance of scientific, I meant science fiction literature, though.
Somebody mentioned to me in one of my chats, they said that if the moon really did have an effect on the oceans, and it was pulling the tides higher as it goes over it, why, when it goes over you, doesn't it suck the clouds off too?
Because the clouds don't have the same mass. Isn't gravity proportionate to mass?
Green gravity? What the hell are you talking about? Yeah, it would, if the sky was a vacuum.
No, but
depends on how you're defining gravity, Ranty. Are you talking about the force that's not a force that everybody wants to think of as a force, but isn't a force?
Yeah, maybe let me clarify. So, the moon can lift the oceans, but yeah, it can't lift the clouds. So when it goes overhead at night time, the clouds that it passes over, which is basically just water, same as the oceans, why doesn't it pull the clouds up too?
Because there's no such thing as gravity or the moon doing any of those things.
Correct.
That's probably a very good reason as to why. But it's a good thought experiment, though.
Well, that's the same as us saying, and I know we don't want to get on this according to Riley this morning, but if the Earth was turning, then it would turn under an airplane or a helicopter. So, well, it doesn't because the Earth's not turning. So the Earth is not having any effect on the oceans because there's no gravity and it's not doing anything. So we're back to their fairy tale.
Yeah, we're not having to talk about Coriolis. Let's talk about something else he said. Has anybody got anything else other than Coriolis that we can talk about?
Nice segue. Chapper.
Yeah.
We talked about presupposed weight differentials on my show today.
That was a subtle intro for someone who's waiting in the wings, Arwen. You there, Chapper?
Oh, yeah. Well, this whole refraction argument, I don't think many people really understand it fully because there's this sort of assumption that that downward refraction would cause things to sink down, or that people not really quite understanding what would happen to an image you're looking at if a certain thing is occurring from point A to point B, namely upward refraction. I just want to hear an argument. If anyone can actually describe for me, from the globe side, if they can actually describe properly why downward refraction would occur, because all of the atmospheric conditions that we see under normal weather conditions, the conditions that are present for upward refraction are ripe. There's a change in temperature above in upward direction. The temperature is getting colder as you rise, and it's getting less consistent. When the air is close to the water or close to the ground, it's insulated by the ground a little bit, and it's a stable temperature. and it's usually a warmer temperature. So you've got this cold gradient going up. You've got a change in temperature going up, a differential in temperature as you go up, and as you're looking through more atmosphere, it's going to diffuse and deflect. So for it to be bending down, you'd need those conditions to be inverted, which is what you do see with like a superior mirage, an inversion of temperature or ice crystals in the atmosphere. But I'd be glad if anyone could come on and try to explain to us how downward refraction would happen on a globe, because I seriously can't see it. I mean, I've read literature about it, but it doesn't seem logical in terms of what causes refraction.
Yeah, I was going to play devil's advocate and argue for the ball, but what you say is right. I can't actually argue against that because what you said is correct. You can't have downward bending light on a ball unless you get certain circumstances. And they always seem to be just perfect for those circumstances. Rather than just saying, yeah, it looks like it might be flat, they just say, oh, it's perfect refraction. And of course, the rumpus claims that on a clear enough day with a powerful enough zoom and a bit of Paul's maths, you can see your own arse in a telescope. So the light has to bend down according to rumpus.
I think their main argument is, let's say you get a laser beam or a torch or something and point it directly up, the light's going to deviate from going directly up. And they're saying, I think the idea is because as the Earth curves away, it has to eventually be pointing directly up. Oh, it's going to interact with differing layers of the atmosphere. No, it's not. You're shining it horizontally. They don't get that. Over short distances, their argument just falls apart completely when you're able to see shit you shouldn't or hit targets you shouldn't.
Well, you'd have to prove Earth is curving first before you even have this discussion.
Well, I mean, you can argue refraction without curvature. You can set up little tests on like a test bench and put different mediums there and see what actually happens, and put different changes in temperature and stuff along the medium. You could definitely test it all, but it's all been done. So
right, that's fine.
You
can do it. Yeah, that's fine. You can do that. You can do it in the lab. You can do it in your garage even. But you'd have to prove the Earth has a curvature, which they can't even show yet.
Well, we're just getting rid of one of the excuses, right? The excuses are, well, you can because of refraction.
Oh, no, that's wrong. Sorry. No, that's incorrect. No, their excuse is not refraction. Their excuse is terrestrial refraction. So while it's fascinating to discuss actual refraction, that is not what they apply. They apply 7/6R, also known as terrestrial refraction, an arbitrary mathematical value.
Well, there's all those silly little rules of thumb, just rough measurements. It's worse than our 8 inches per mile squared.
Well, sure.
It's a ball presuppositional based refraction, specifically.
Yeah, it begs the question of a ball before it applies their version of what they call refraction based on a ball. So it's a double begging the question fallacy. First assume the Earth is a ball, then assume light bends round it at 7/6R. It's a begging the question fallacy on steroids.
Well, where would we start then? With is there anybody that actually have we got any globers here that can argue for refraction?
RB, you've been off mute. I don't know if you wanted to add something. Background noise. Fair enough. Doesn't seem so. I mean, you could argue all day about refraction, but all they're going to be doing is equivocating. So they will just argue with you about what you're detailing in terms of refraction while they say refraction, but that's not what they'll actually be using.
I mean, I could equivocate for myself and argue useless points round and round until the cows come home, but I don't think it really matters until something can be presented that is, at least conceivable from the other side. So we can at least have a comparison rather than a jump through hoops, because it's hoops and hoops and hoops. You can jump through hoops for forever.
Right. I would also like to add that the whole machination, if I may, the whole machination of the terrestrial refraction system is that what they basically do, instead of getting a really reliable optics system explaining anything that just works, they kind of make everything that they perceive into an exceptional situation. Like everything that you would bring forth is always some kind of exception that is more complicated to explain on the ball, but they will try and improvise all the way every time. So that's they really try to explain everything through exceptions instead of making a solid working structure for it, as
Right.
we have been attempting,
Yeah.
especially
You make a
like
rule, not an
Scott.
exception. You
Yeah,
find the truth, not try to create excuses.
Well, that's why we have the title Slightly Looming Non-Standard Refraction Hyena Holographic Projections of Objects Behind an Earth Curve that's been reified from a presupposition of an R value. So, you know, that long string of bullshit is essentially describing us looking at something and just saying, like this picture on screen now, clock tower. That's what it is, right? Clock tower? Anybody watching? Anybody disagree? Clock tower. Not if you're a globehead. No, not a clock tower. Slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of a clock tower from behind Earth's curve loomed up at 7/6R. That's what that is. It's a projection of a clock tower, not a real clock tower. Obviously, it's a phenomena. You can't just look at it and say clock tower. Unless you're a flat earther. Then you just say clock tower. No presuppositions required. It's just a clock tower. Concrete noun. They turn it into a phenomena and tell you it's a slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of a clock tower. No, it isn't. It's just a clock tower.
Nathan, how is that not a phenomenon if shoe is a phenomenon? Nathan, if shoe is a phenomenon, why isn't clock tower a phenomenon?
It's a concrete noun. It's not a phenomenon. It's not happening. It's not an occurrence. It's a concrete noun.
Hey, I know it's a bit of a shame that there are actually no Globers here to defend the position, but this is one of the ones I would like to put to somebody if they are a Glober listening. And this is, why is it that during the during the very early morning or like mid-afternoon, why are they the best times of the day to make an observation at long distance? Because at that time, you've got the least amount of refractive conditions at play. You've got the air temperatures at a stable, steady temperature because it's been nighttime. It's all very consistent temperature. And there's no change in temperature because the sun hasn't come out to sort of start throwing things around yet. So why can you see the furthest at these times when actually the reason you say you can see further is because of refraction?
Okay,
because when it gets to around midday or past 10 o'clock, it's going to be refracting like all fuck, and you're not going to see as far but if it's refracting more downward, you should be able to see more, not less.
I was just going to say start the statement again, but instead of asking it as a question, to say you can see further because, and then list off the exact same things that you posed as a question, and there's your answer.
Well, you see further because there's less upward refraction, because there's not less change in temperature, there's a more consistent temperature, and so the light just travels straight across.
There you go.
When it starts to warm up in the day, and it goes to higher refractive conditions, there's more upward refraction, so you don't see as far. But in the Glober's argument, they say, well, it's downward refraction, not upward refraction. All right, so when there's more refractive conditions available in the middle of the day, why is it that you can't see further then?
Spot on. What's his name? Life is Short covered exactly this. He said that they're essentially saying it's downward when it's upward. They've just inverted what's actually occurring based on the conditions and what refraction would give you.
The explanation they give is that that's the time of the day when the refraction is most refractive. And we say that's a lie. And they come up with numbers and they say that, there you go, proof. And we say, no, that's not proof. Proof is what we see in Skunk Bay. And it settles down and it becomes stable. Throughout the day, it does an awful lot of a wide range of stretching and squashing and moving up and down and generally being distorted to all hell and back as though someone's run a magnet across your screen. That's what we call distorted or whatever, refractive. But they say, well, it's the most refractive conditions at the end of the day when things are settling back down again. And I said, that's complete horseshit.
Shout out to Constance Burns, who says, Nathan, I want slightly looming non-standard refraction high in a holographic projection of a clock tower from beyond Earth's curve based on the reification of a model based on R on a t-shirt, please. Thanks very much for the super chat, Constance Burns.
Yeah, refraction does change things, but it doesn't lift things up. That's the difference. It might manipulate a little bit at the bottom, but it doesn't actually lift an entire building up. It only affects the very, very small areas next to the water.
That's not true. Anthony's presented what I would call real looming, like an entire structure, not even structure, an entire piece of geography being lifted up.
Well, what's that?
Do you not remember
Yeah,
when?
man, the northern part.
Yeah. Will the real looming stand up? I think he titled the video. Am I correct, Sleeping Warrior?
Yeah, I'll dig it out.
Yeah, but yeah, did it look like a building though?
No, it's a piece of land.
Yeah, it was a very distorted piece of land.
I know where you're going with this. You're going to say, I'm going to paraphrase. This is Ranty's, not mine. I'm going to paraphrase. At no point will you ever stand looking at the top of a hill and see your mate's house loomed up to the top of the hill. Correct, Ranty? Am I?
Correct.
Right. Yeah, and I totally agree. But nonetheless, looming is real. And it's really obvious. I'm presenting you, Anthony.
It doesn't lift it up in proportion.
No.
You'll see stuff, but it's not like you're going to see a building in its entirety all loomed up. That doesn't happen.
Ranty, just watch this and tell me what you think.
I can't watch it.
He's on Skype, he can't watch, but nevertheless.
So all I'm doing is zooming into the background mountain, and look where the horizon is. Look, the dark line on the water's edge is the hard horizon. Now watch where the land is relative to it as it starts tapering off into the water. And the point what we're going to get to is the mountain, the land mass on the other side, where after the gap seems to be floating. Now they would say, well, that's looming, and I'd say it's a Fata Morgana. But look at this. This is water. This normally, this bit here is water, and there is a black line that someone's got a felt tip pen going right the way across. But if I stop it there, so look at where so when this land drops into the water here, normally this land drops into the water, and there's a hard water horizon here, and this dark greeny blue line here is the hard water horizon. So when we go across the other page to the other side, the land should start from this line here. But for some reason, it doesn't. Look what actually happens. So the land is on the line above it, but it should be starting from this hard horizon here. So for some reason, it's being lifted up completely. And I wonder whether this is looming or not. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it's not. It's a genuine question. Because that land that's demonstrated on top should be on the bottom line, but it isn't. And I've got no explanation for it. I don't know what's going on with it. So look, this land drops down into the hard water. Most of us will agree that this is the real water line, Whatever's going on top of here, not really sure. But then when you go across and you follow the water line, that's where you would expect the land to start on again when the land comes in. But for some weird reason, the land's on the top. And I can't explain it. That might be looming. I'm not saying it is. I'm just asking, is it?
Right, but they're claiming.
Okay, so you see the buildings of Barrow. You see the buildings of Barrow where they're in their entirety. Okay, that is just a clear line of sight, right? Those buildings do never move. They never move. They never change their relative positions to the post and the foreground.
Ranty, I'm showing that on this picture, this video, that for some reason the land did physically move.
Okay, so I can't see the video, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I've got both of you up.
Let's give you this.
Well, no, I've got both of you up.
Let's give you this.
Hold on. No, you don't need, because you both got, coincidentally, your image is actually presentable. So I've got the buildings at Barrow on screen now, and then if Anthony makes his screen larger again, I'll put his back on. But you're both correct. So that's my point in its entirety. Here's a clock tower. We just see it. No explanation required. Now, in terms of Anthony's imagery, will the real looming stand up? It's not like you're just seeing something. It looks bizarre. It is unusual. Now, that unusual effect is claimed on the globe side. Obviously, I make the disclaimers immediately, should anybody ever come to argue this, that it's a begging the question fallacy. They're assuming it based on a sphere Earth and terrestrial refraction based on R. But there is clearly something to look at there. It's not normal. Yeah. Now, their claim on the globe side is that effect is actually loomed up from beyond an Earth curve that they've reified to sit perfectly on what seems like a normal horizon, in perfect proportion. So whereas Anthony's got an example of something that looks pretty outlandish and pretty crazy, it doesn't look normal, What we've got on the other hand, which is Ranty's point, is just a clear line of sight. Maybe a little bit hazy because there's a bit of atmosphere between you and it, but it's ultimately just seeing it versus seeing something lifted up into the air. Now, according to the ballers, this is looming, and according to this is what, Anthony? What was the explanation from their side for yours? Not looming?
I don't think I ever got one. But
Right.
This has only ever happened once. This is like a freak. This is not a regular occurrence. So I don't know. I've not really seen a good response to it.
Sure, but what my point is, unlike the arbitrary application of 7/6R, when you've got a completely normal image, something that doesn't look outlandish, it's a clock. But apparently this is looming in perfect proportion, and that's Ranty's point.
Yeah, that is my point. And the simple fact is that if gravity was having an effect on the water, it would all be being pulled to the center of the Earth, which means that every piece of water on this Earth has curvature to it. 7.9 inch meter, 7.9 inch per mile squared, right? And you can measure that. So if all those images that I film, they have to be looming in their model, because you can't have flat water. You can't just be seeing those buildings. So the question remains that how can you lift buildings up and objects in the distance in proportion, with a clear line of sight? Because either gravity had a day off or we're just seeing them. Simple as that.
Well, no, you don't need to give them an answer. You can't. It's just so stupid to assume that it would occur in the way that it does when you're seeing things slightly further away that are technically further beyond the curve but have loomed up in the correct proportions, even though they're further away. You're like, no, it just doesn't work. But as I say, it's always going to be based on their presupposition of an Earth that's spherical, regardless of what you see. They'll argue looming if they see it. They'll argue it's hidden by Earth curve if you don't.
Have they even actually explained the Chicago time lapse properly, these many years later? Or is it still just a hand wave?
No, it's not. No.
Or it's a mirage kind of thing?
No, well, that mirage statement is the assertion that the Chicago skyline is a slightly looming, non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of the Chicago skyline from beyond Earth's curve when based on a presupposition of Earth being spherical based on an R value. That's what they're saying when they say it's a mirage. Mirage? What's a mirage? Something that's not really there? Yeah, fucking hologram. That's what they're saying. It's not really there. It's a mirage. Well, you translate that into our language. Slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of Chicago skyline from beyond an Earth curve that have reified into existence and then loomed back up using 7/6R, also based on a begging the question R value. That's what they're actually saying when they say mirage.
Yeah, and
if you look into it, I'm pretty sure that guy, that weatherman, had to retract that mirage statement because he was apparently very off base with it.
He did retract the statement. He didn't retract the statement, but he said that he would do some type of more in-depth analysis, and then I don't know if he ever did.
Yeah, he did a follow-up video with some
What happened in the follow-up video? What did you say about it then?
What, the follow-up video? He was saying that he said it was a mirage, and then a lot of people attacked him because of what a mirage is. And it's like, no, how can a mirage be on a globe? So he was basically saying that he addressed that and then said, on one of my segments, I'll be doing a more in-depth analysis and blah, blah, blah. But then I don't think he ever got to it, though. I don't think he ever did another segment after that.
Yeah, so all these years later, we've still got that Chicago time lapse, which is repeatable from what I can tell. I mean, I haven't done it myself, but I can tell it appears to be repeatable. And all these years later, yeah, this is the most extreme example of the looming or the refraction or the miraging or whatever. It's been a few years now, and there's still no explanation for that. So it's funny how nitpicking, or the globe side nitpicking about, this little refraction and looming, they still haven't explained that Chicago time lapse, because that level of refraction or miraging is, certainly that's what I thought at the time, was it's some sort of phenomenally new optical phenomenon that deserves investigation. But yeah, well, still don't know what's going on except that it's flat and you're seeing it.
Yeah, there's a better example. I can't remember the title. It might be Carnegie or something similar. But is it? It's on Jeranism's channel for certain. But there's a certain point in the year that the sun sets behind a certain set of mountains, and you can see them from hundreds of miles. You know, and the only
Carnegie, I think, is it?
Carnegie. That sounds about right. Yeah, and you know, there is no explanation beyond stating that it's a hologram, that you're not really seeing it. It's loomed up, blah blah blah, and well, no, it's just there. Earth's flat. It's obvious and observable.
Yeah, I mean, to this point, they still jump on, like, let's say the bottom part that's squished, you know, in any picture. But, you know, there's nowhere near the amount that should be hidden anyway. So, yeah, I'm not sure what else. Yeah. You know, it's just nitpicking about that part that's squished because of, yeah, some sort of refraction or atmospheric effect. But it still doesn't explain the huge amount that should be hidden. But you can see it. Yeah, Canigoo, Chicago time lapse, that's all the other stuff all you guys have done and all that.
I mean, of all of these, I think, without kissing Ranty's ass too much, the ones that are about those 18 to 20 mile distances are excellent because it's way beyond what they can account for. It's really clear, you know, it's at a distance that the optics we have now can give you a really clear image of something that you can distinguish, like that clock tower. So like 18 and a half miles, that clock tower that was on screen, correct, Ranty?
Correct, yeah. And also, one thing I'd like to point out is that this 18-mile distance, the the water that we're filming across is very shallow. So it doesn't have an awful lot of effects going on as regards to any kind of shoaling or anything like that. And I think that's what's the difference. You can go to places with 18-mile distances, like you could go to Hawaii, for instance, where they've got a massive drop-off after a couple of miles, goes very, very deep. And you get things disappearing relatively quickly. You can't see very far. And I think that's all down to the nature of the water that you're filming across. Whenever you go across flattish areas, Jenna Fredo, for instance, when she does her video, if you look at that area that they're filming across, it's relatively shallow. Again, you see far. So it's not having the effects of any kind of, like I say, shoaling or anything like that.
Yeah,
but if it doesn't work on the shorts, if it doesn't work on a scale of calm water, because essentially that's what it is calm water, you know. So you're looking over calm water, you see further. You look over areas where it's quite deep, and you don't see very far at all because of all the issues with the topography of the land underneath it, i.e. sort of like Wolfie when he does his Bathurst Lighthouse and stuff.
But the succinct demolition of this, coming back to how the conversation started with Travis, right? So he's looking at Dirty Air, and that band that he's calling the Ether Band, lots of names and titles for this area at the diffraction limit, at the point where the sky appears to meet the ground, right? Well, that all got discussed. It's got to be 2 years ago, right? Isle of Man. And
yeah, it was show 77 onwards, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
For about 30 shows.
Inadvertently, without appreciating what we were doing, we were allowing our opponents to beg the question, assume Earth's a sphere, assume refraction, and we were arguing within the begging of the question fallacy, looking at the calculator. You know, and that was at one that was less clear because it's at a greater distance, i.e. Isle of Man at 30 miles, correct? 30 to 37.
Yeah, that was like 2017, mid to end 2017.
Right. We still use a lot of the images that flash up on screen. Not necessarily this one, although this is one of Ranty's. Very beautiful. Nevertheless, those images still flash up on screen as a homage to that particular part of the debate when we were figuring out how they do the magic trick. Now, arguing about the maths took a long time, but ultimately led us to the point where we understood how the maths worked and how they beg the question, how they automatically assume the outcome that they're looking for, and gave us the alternative reason to why they wanted to argue about it so much. Why were they so keen to argue about it, even when we were in our minds winning? within the fallacy. We weren't winning. We were in the fallacy. The Earth was always a sphere no matter what the outcome was. And all that happened when they lost was to just declare that it's looming. It's looming.
Yeah,
Can I make a short presentation,
the
Nathan?
show was very active yesterday.
Yeah, go ahead. Is it Elijah? And then yes, Anthony.
Yeah. No, I was saying the after show was very lively all day yesterday. And I was having a conversation and we were talking about the horizon. And, I said, well, the horizon is not an actual place and blah, blah, blah. And they were like, yeah, but you can plot the points and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, if you can do that to what you think is the horizon, then you're talking about the edge of where we can see. So why don't you, can you do that with a boat? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, how do you get the distance to the boat without knowing how far it is? And they said, well, you can use the radius of Earth. And you plug that in, and then without knowing the distance, that'll give you the distance. And then I said, that's interesting. I'll have to bring that up because I don't know exactly what they're saying with that. But to me, it seems like, well, I know that the horizon is not an actual place, like it's an effect. But if they're going to say there's a boat going over the quote unquote curve, and I'm like, okay, well, how do you determine the distance to that boat? And then they basically said, well, you can have two people, one person somewhere on the beach, I guess, and then someone going further out as far as you can see until it starts to disappear. Then they radio them and say, okay, hey, you're disappearing. I can no longer see you. And then they put in the numbers or whatever and somehow get the distance. And I was like, I definitely need clarification on that because it sounded kind of legit and I didn't know how to argue against it.
Well, when you say
Well,
argue
as soon
against
as they tell you that they have a number for the radius, they're telling you they already live on a ball.
Yeah, they're
not
already begging the
trying to
question.
prove anything.
No, I
They've
got
already
that.
established.
It's not what he's asking, Chocolate.
I hit them with that.
Could I answer this?
Go ahead, Ranty.
Could I answer it? Okay, so Earth curve calculator, it's dead easy, right? So at 3 miles away, there should be a geometric drop of 6 feet, right? So essentially, if you lie on the floor with your eyeball on the floor and you try to see a human being that's 6 feet tall, that's 3 miles away, they will have disappeared. You won't be able to see it. And the reason you won't be able to see it is that your human eyeball has a limit to what it can actually resolve. And that limit has an angle of 0.02 degrees. Now, coincidentally, the Earth curve calculator says that at the geometric drop over 3 miles, again, is 6 feet. Now, it's exactly the same as the human eye resolution, 0.02 of a degree. Isn't that a coincidence?
No, they've hijacked perspective and called it Earth curve. So where they say, in your question, is Elijah, you said, well, they're asking you at the point that something disappears to then plug in an R value and ignore perspective, and you're asking essentially, how is it that they've made an accurate prediction? Well, it's simple. They've taken the effects of perspective and called them Earth curve. Now, the fact they're calculating it with different name tags above the mathematics doesn't mean anything other than they've done a good job of hijacking perspective. Because in their mathematics, as Anthony said at the beginning of this show, according to them, if you've got a big enough telescope, you can see your own arse. Because according to them and their mathematics, you can see forever on a flat plane. Now, the reason you can see forever on a flat plane, according to them, is because their mathematics doesn't include perspective. So when they say, why can't you see New York from Wales? Because in their mathematics, you should be able to. They've got a version of mathematics that puts it into a side elevation. Now, if I draw on a side elevation a stick man on the left of the page and a stick man on the right of the page and draw a line between them, I can write 1 million miles on the top of that line. And there's still a line drawn between the two objects because it doesn't include perspective. And that's what they do. Then the effects that actually take place get called Earth curve. So it's a begging the question, it uses an R value. Proof of nothing, because it's begged the question, it's a fallacious argument. Perspective hijacking, curve calculator. Doesn't include perspective, and that's a very real effect that every single man, woman, child, dog, cat, any animal with eyeballs takes into account every single time they open them. It's a real effect that they don't include. How? They use orthographic Muppet vision. Put it inside profile so that they can put any scale they like between the observer and target, and it will never disappear. So the only thing that does cause it to disappear is Earth curve getting in the way. And what is Earth curve? Well, they're saying, oh no, yeah, we appreciate now, oh do they, that it's a not actual location, but we can still plot it. Is that what they said? Well, no, you can't plot not actual locations. It's not an actual location to plot, but it is to them. It's the edge of their sphere, the bit that's blocking the buildings behind it according to them when it reaches the diffraction limit and becomes too small to see. Perspective is what you're actually observing. The hijacking of perspective is what they use in the Earth curve calculations. That's why you see a side view in the maths. You see the side of your own head in their observations. When you look at something, you do not see the side of your own head. Their mathematics includes you looking at yourself as you make the observation, essentially removing all aspects of perspective and calling them Earth curve.
Well said.
Well, I agree with that. And I posed all of that to them. But at the end of all of that, I still left with the question of how could they possibly get the accurate distance to the boat in the distance that seems to go over, quote unquote, the horizon? How do they get that distance by using their height and the radius and nothing more? That's what I didn't understand.
I've just
how
explained.
they could get accurate.
I've just explained. They substituted the actuality. Yes, they've done a good job of mapping out how our eyes work and where things disappear so that they can call that effect Earth curve based on their mathematics. And where it doesn't work out, they add another layer of terrestrial refraction when it doesn't quite work out. So yeah, you may think they've got good accurate representations, but they don't. Hence they have got this extra layer. And then when that doesn't work, they add a slider to it and they increase the amount from 7/6R to super looming. My point being that if you are well versed in optics and understand or have studied the effects that take place in reality, you can label the effects whatever you like. Now, the fact that maths will work in either direction to give you the distance if you already have what you can see at a given point, it doesn't mean that that part of the mathematics is any more valid for predicting a globe. It's simply presupposing it when it ignores perspective. So it's perspective that they've taken originally, and the effects thereof are then relabeled. But it doesn't mean that their accurate, in quotes, predictions are anything to do with their presupposition. And the presupposition in their mathematics, when excluding perspective, I hasten to add, is that Earth's a sphere. Simple. But the reverse engineering of that and giving you it with a different name tag and saying, look, we've got an accurate model, that's the name of their game in this regard and has been and always will be. To get you to reify a model, well, that's a reification fallacy, getting you to take the predictions of some model that they're saying is your world, and begging the question of that model with the R value that they make explicitly clear they're going to be used to make their predictions. Well, their predictions, which in reality are simply based on optics, the natural effect of perspective we all observe or record or take pictures of, and then remove all aspects so you can blame it on Earth curve. But the backwards part of it and how they can then give you a guesstimation of how far something is doesn't mean anything. It doesn't certainly prove their presupposition.
Well, thank you very much, Nathan, for clearing that up for the after show after the show. Appreciate it.
Oh, for the silent majority, as they are, people who are here en masse but don't say much.
Nathan, quick presentation.
Well, I did actually forget that. Sorry, Anthony. Yes, go ahead. You're on Sleeping Warrior.
So a lot of people criticise the show for not presenting any flat Earth evidence anymore. That's because there's no ballers to battle off anyway. About 12, 18 months ago, or however long ago it was, this is the most popular video on my channel. I was up in Whitehaven in the Lake District with the missus and the dogs, and I found that I saw something on a really clear day that I thought was interesting. I didn't know what it was. Anyway, 3 months after it was recorded, Ranty suggested it might be a flat Earth proof. So I'm just showing where I was stood. It's on this little caravan park. It's on the little coastal road next to it, and I'm looking out over the sea, the Irish Sea, to Isle of Man. So basically, I'm somewhere along this coastal road. On Google Earth, it said it was about 35 feet tall. When we actually measured it, I think it turned out to be 47 or 49 feet. It's irrelevant because the ball has challenged me to go back to get it from the beach. Go back to the beach and get it, Riley. So I did. Now, the Isle of Man, you can see in the background, it's in silhouette at the minute. And there's the land that we were looking at before we had this crazy mirage on it. And I'm on this little outcrop of land, this path. And I'm just showing where I am so so that people can basically replicate the observation on a clear day. And people have been back since. Al Kay's been back, Miles Delia Davis has been back to try and replicate. Now, it was just a clear day. And all I did was I just scanned out to the horizon, to a very flat, straight, not curvy horizon, just to see what I could see. Because this wasn't too much of what I was interested in. What I was interested in is what's on the other side of this, because it appeared to be floating. And I describe it as floating because you can see that there's what appears to be sky underneath. We now know it's reflection of what is the land above it underneath. Now, obviously, if there's a curve in the way, there can't be a reflection. That's the first thing. But I was curious for what this optical phenomena was. It is an optical phenomena. We know it's definitely not floating land. And I wanted to know what it was. So the question I asked in this video was, what is the land that's here? So when we go to the remainder of this video, so when I'll come away from this, and basically they said it was the Isle of Man, and I said okay, but none of the Isle of Man should be seen from that elevation because it should all be behind the curve of the Earth. So they all come up with looming, and they said you'll not get it if you go back and get the same observation from the beach. So I went back to the beach, lay on my belly, and although this is the same land, this is the same bit of land that we looked at, it's squashed. We don't know why it squashes. It might be a perspective effect. It might be optical effect caused by refraction or whatever. But that's the land that I was looking at before. Then there's a gap, and then we see the other land, the floating land. And this is supposed to be 700 feet behind the curve of the Earth because I'm lay on the beach, a few feet above the water, probably 2. They wanted it to be 10. It wasn't nothing like 10. It was like 2. But ultimately, I can see the land. Now, when I zoom out now, you can see that same land that was in the first picture, that land should be 700 feet behind the curve of the Earth, right? It should not be seen. So their argument is that it's looming. My argument is, there's something weird going on here, but it's definitely not consistent with the claim that we live on a sphere Earth, because I shouldn't see any of that. So obviously now you can see the footage clearly on screen now. And then basically I realized that I need to show where I am. So the dog walks in front of the camera, because that's always what dogs do. And it loses its focus, and then I have to get up. And you'll see what I used as my tripod. And my tripod was made out of a little mound of dirt, little mound of sand on the beach. That's how I got it so stable. Because this is at full zoom, digital zoom as well on a P900. And I mean, you can feel the blood pumping in your fingers, and it affects how you see what you're looking at on the horizon. So that's the dog walking in front of it. So I realize now I can't see it anymore because I think it's lost a bit of focus. And I zoom out. Oh yeah, I've played around with the color and the contrast and stuff to make it more visible for what I was looking at. Now look at all the distortion effects on the horizon there. It's not a particularly clear day, it's just a day. But now I'll zoom right back out, and you can see that the camera is mounted on the sand at sea level. Now it's the driest part of the sand I could find that I was prepared to lie on. It's not quite on the water's edge, but how far out is that? It's not that far. And ultimately, the ballers completely and utterly ignore this. They think that for some reason this is okay to just ignore because it didn't get the attention that the Isle of Man stuff did. But the fact of the matter is, the land that I was questioned to go back and get from the beach when I was laying on my belly, this footage supersedes the previous footage because they all said it's just refraction behind the curve of the Earth and all that. But when I go back to the beach and lie on my belly and I get the same land, then something else is going on, clearly. I don't know what's going on. It seems to be optical. It seems to be squashed. It could be refraction, but it definitely isn't a ball, because if it is a ball, that land should not be seen. And they just ignore it. They just think that they can just dismiss it and just not talk about it. But this is the evidence that I accept that does not support the assertion that we live on a sphere, because this can't be seen on a sphere, guys. There's supposed to be a massive wall of water blocking it out, and it has to fall away from you, like over 34 miles. We're not living on a ball. It might not be flat. It looks like it probably is flat, but I can't prove that it's flat everywhere. But I'm happy that it's flat where I live. I'm done.
Shout out to Joseph369. I missed your super chat earlier. Says, shout out to IRP900. That's not actually IR footage. It just had filters on it. So I don't think you've got any IR equipment, have you, Anthony?
No, just a P900.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Shout out
all
to
the
Tough
images
to
that you
Trees.
keep flashing up there, Nathan, of me, what I'm taking of Barrow in Furnace, they're probably just as good, because none of those buildings should be seen on a globe model. Right?
Yeah,
None
that
of
one
them.
where you're in the puddle, Ranty, and you've dug the hole. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's worth a mention. So one of the observations that Ranty did, he did right on the water's edge and dug a hole. So he got his camera halfway up between the water's edge and the ground itself, so he couldn't be more at sea level. And he lifts up the camera at the end of the shot, and the water fills the hole just as he takes the camera away.
It was good timing, that.
Yeah,
but
you're not
again,
kidding.
as I say, those buildings, you shouldn't see them, Nathan, and that's just it. Even the very, very clear images of the ones that I've presented many times, they shouldn't be seen on a globe model. It's just as simple as that. All of them should be hidden, every single bit.
And ballers just
You shouldn't
ignore
see
it.
any of them.
They just think, oh yeah, you can see it. And I'm like, yeah, it's a problem, guys. Come on.
That was a good poke. Maybe opened a few wounds.
They'll just ignore it, Nathan. They've got no answer to it, so they have to ignore it and hope it goes away.
Big shout out to Tough to Trees.
Yeah, shout out to Tough to Trees. Were you here for all that, Chocolate? Were you on the side then?
I was listening, but I think I had just came on maybe once or twice, but like I was still new to you guys, so. But yeah, I heard all that. I came
John
in like
W
right
in chat is
after.
asking, has Rumpus, John W is asking in chat, has Rumpus done his presentation on this yet? No. It's always 99.9% done.
Talking of old shows, on yesterday's after show, there was somebody asking about, I believe it was Cavendish, and Unicorn Laser Eyes was like, yeah, show 264 is the one with, it may not have been that number, but somewhere around that, is the one that they do a detailed expose of Cavendish. And I'm like, my God, how do you know that? Because I wouldn't know that off the top of my head. And he was like, yeah, I had to go through to find it. I'm like, wow. So you've obviously spent time. I know why people moan at me. It's like they're just numbers. How are you supposed to find anything? But by the same token, there are people out there. So shout out to Unicorn Laser Eyes, who do actually know where this stuff is. You know, when we've gone into things like the Cavendish and gone into detail that, you know, perhaps I can't even remember now, given that it's probably 500 or 600 shows ago.
Well, I might title tonight's show Flat Earth Proofs, and dig up maybe a dozen or so videos and images of these loomed buildings apparently in the globe model, and show them to, because it's been a while since I've actually showed these, so it'd be nice to sort of like say, if you want Flat Earth Proofs, yeah, I'll present it tonight. Tony, you're coming on, aren't you?
Yeah, Ranty, did you find any more copies of the? Do you remember when you said somebody had been onto the Google Plus account and manually deleted the Blackpool Tower stuff?
Yep.
Did you redig them out, or are they still missing, or what?
I think I've only got a few of them left. I'll have to have another look because, like I say, I uploaded them to Google Drive. I handed out the link to people in chat, so it was available for anybody to click the link, and somebody went in there and deleted them all.
Sounds like Brenda's MO, that's what Brenda does.
Yeah. Right, let's just do a proper plug. So that's Chit Chat on Ranty Flat Earth channel. So if you're watching this live right now, then that's going to be at 10 p.m. UK time, 4 p.m. Central Standard, and that's on, as I say, Ranty Flat Earth channel, Be Here or Be Sphere. And I'll plug it again if you continue watching, because I'll round out the live show shortly. But stay tuned. If you're watching on Nathan Oakley Premiering Stream, I will plug Ranty's Flat Earth Chit Chat again, because it will go out as soon as the after show finishes. But yeah, ask everyone to stay tuned and thank the live audience shortly.
Cool.
So I see Rumpus lurking in chat. He's not allowed to come in anymore. The ballers won't let him in because he gets so badly battered that he presents their arguments in a bad light now. He used to be their go-to oracle. He's not allowed in anymore.
George Netanyahu superseded him.
Yeah, George Netanyahu superseded Rumpus. And he can't come in either. Great. Shout out to Coriola.
Superseded as it added on to, or superseded as it replaced? Because they still can't figure it out.
Yeah, we don't struggle with the meaning of the words. We understand what superseded means. It doesn't mean refined, morons.
Got a new citation for that though that you've yet to present. I've never seen you cite that. Maybe I'm giving something away that I shouldn't.
Say that again.
Got a new citation in that regard where it doesn't say superseded. It says replaced in the citation itself.
Yeah, someone's gone onto Wikipedia on the general relativity post on Wikipedia, and he's changed it from superseded because that's what it originally said. He changed it to refined or something else, something similar. And then the admin guy, whoever runs that page, has changed it back to superseded, and then somebody else has changed it back to refined again. And it's like they're going in deliberately trying to change history and stuff. It's shocking, but that's what we're having to deal with.
My God. Can't have those two different ideas melded into one. They've got completely different mathematics, but they want it to be a refinement. It's like, well, just show the mathematics then. This is a QE argument. So it's like, if you want to claim it's a polished up version of the same mathematics, then show one going into the other. You never will. You can't. There isn't any space-time in Euclidean. There isn't any. That fourth dimension doesn't exist. How are you going to translate that? It's just nonsense. But they want to call it a refinement. It isn't. It's a replacement. The current bullshit is Einstein. Don't have to like it. Probably won't stay the current bullshit for very long. In fact, in real terms, it isn't the current bullshit. Quantum mechanics has superseded Einsteinian bullshit. Again, you don't have to like it. It's just fact.
Yeah. By the way, talking about changing history by altering Wikipedia entries and all, I wonder how long it'll take before they actually try to change the word "and" into also meaning "or," because I see them actually doing that at some point if they could.
I'm going to round out this show with a little story. So, Anthony invited me up to the location that you were just all shown on camera, St. Bees, and while we were there, Anthony told me that he could see the lighthouse flashing from the car park, and I didn't believe him. And then he showed me. I was amazed. I showed my wife, and I can't remember, someone else was there, I believe. No, I think it was just us four, the dogs. Anyway, I saw it, was amazed, and then Anthony went onto Wikipedia and altered, with evidence, he'd taken footage of it, the Wikipedia entry. And what was the result of that, Anthony? Staying on mute. I'll give him a couple more seconds. What will happen now is he'll come back and go, "Were you talking to me?"
I was just letting the dog out, he'll say.
I'm going to have to round out shortly, so we might not get an answer on the live show.
Are we taking bets of if he's taking the dog out or he's getting a brew?
I don't know. One or the other. It's always that way with timing. This is why I want QE to run his live stream himself. It means I can sod off. You know what I mean? I can be Anthony in this position. So what do you think, Nathan?
Cricket.
Exactly. Shout out to Awaken Narrative, who says, "Flat Earth is winning. Truth is rejoice. It's flat." And with that, and on the cliffhanger of what happened to Anthony in regards to his Wikipedia entry, I will say, if you are watching this on Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. If you're only going to watch this live, then definitely check out Ranty Flat Earth Chit Chat, which is on at 10 PM UK tonight. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley. As I say, stay tuned if you're watching on the premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
It almost felt like a throwback episode talking about perspective and things going behind it to the horizon and stuff. Like,
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
it was almost kind of nice not to talk about other things, apparent things that I won't mention.
That was down to a Discord guest.
I was make sure I wasn't alive first. Almost thought I was listening to a replay.
Well, that was down to the guy with the CH at the beginning of his name. So whose name I can't. Ches something. I can't say his name, but he was the guy in Chepper. He was the guy in the pre-show going, I want to talk about refraction. I need someone to argue with about it. And off the back of that, we had a trip down memory lane to like show 76. Excellent. I enjoyed that too.
Yeah, it was good.
This is your moment, those of you in Discord. I know they're all in live stream. Righteous, do you know how to boot them all to the after show? Oh, Quantum Eraser's in there, maybe he'll do it.
Yeah, give me a sec. I was in the middle of a game and I'm running late.
What game were you in the middle of?
Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer.
Command and Conquer 2000 version.
Yeah.
What the hell are you two on about? Bloody computer games.
Yeah. It's because the ballers can't prove the Earth. I mean, I'm just wondering, well, I don't know. I'm wondering how we can move this conversation forward now. What do we do? They can't prove it, so let's shout it. It's time.
Command and Conquer, is that like a... That'd be like PlayStation era.
Yeah, it's a strategy game where you have like a map from above. It's like you're looking down on a flat Earth and you're God, and you've got all your teams, your army. So you start building your army with power plants and vehicle depots, and start building up your iron ore trucks and stuff like that. And you end up attacking your neighbor who's minding his own business, and then you occupy his town instead. It's great.
Why not?
It's classic strategy.
Got a GTX 980 Ti. Why don't you just buy whatever they're called? Not Command and Conquer. What do they? Call of Duty. Just buy one of them.
Well, I've got Call of Duty, but it's, to be honest, I like the original game. It's just because it's classic retro gaming from the late 90s. It's quality. You can't beat it.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, and now it runs super smooth because it was designed to run on much less powerful computers. So I totally agree there, Anthony.
Oh my god.
Retro gaming.
Yeah. I still play Baldur's Gate, and that's from 97.
That doesn't surprise me with you, Arwin, though.
I would love to have a GoldenEye tournament right now.
GoldenEye. I like watching the speedruns. I've never played GoldenEye in my life, but I really enjoy. Is it RG Goose who does videos on the speedrunning for that particular Nintendo game? I don't know. It's just a distraction away from Flat Earth and the general Flat Earth stuff to keep me sane. I'll watch random things that haven't necessarily got any interest in, like speedrunning. Yeah, very interesting.
Who remembers Golden Axe on the Mega Drive?
Of course.
I do.
Golden Axe was a proper game.
Yeah. Hey, Tony, have you ever played the first ever strategy game?
What's that? Which one?
Doom 2.
Oh, yeah, Doom. Yeah, Doom and Doom 2. Yeah, quality.
A really awkward interface where you always had to click everything.
Yeah,
but it was awesome.
Quality.
That was the start of it all. Yeah, played that game so many times.
So you know there's a level with ledges in it, right? There's like a really narrow tightrope type level on Doom 2.
No, not Doom 2. Dune.
Oh, Doomed. Oh, my bad.
And not Dune. D-U-N-E.
Oh, Dune.
No, E. A. Vowels.
Nathan, are we on the after show, or are we still on the end of the first show?
That's the after show now.
We're waiting for you to finish the story, Sleeping Warrior.
So, at the end of the live show, you'd buggered off, of course. But there we go. So, I explained that you'd taken me to the car park with my wife to see the Muckold Lighthouse flashing. And you got your video of it, and then you went to Wikipedia. and you made it clear that you can see it from the beach at St. Bees, which you absolutely can, and that's where I left. That's where I left the story.
So basically, somebody didn't like the fact that I was saying something that is factually true, and they went in and deleted it, and I changed it back, and they deleted it, and I changed it back, and then I got bored.
Wow.
But it just proves to me that these guys will write the history the way they want the history to be made.
That's crazy.
Because the distance that you're not meant to see that lighthouse for more than, I think it's 12 miles. It's supposed to have a focal distance of 12 miles. Beyond that, you're not meant to see it because it's supposed to be too small or whatever. There's a reason why. I can't remember exactly the reason. But the reality is you can see it from the beach. And not only can you see it from the, well, maybe not the beach, the car park. We didn't go down as far as the beach, but you can see it from the car park. And it's supposed to be that far behind the curve of the earth. There's no way you should be seeing it. And obviously that was one of the things that me and Nathan had we had a background conversation where Nathan's like, I was like, should we show this footage? Nathan's like, nah, don't show it, because what they'll say is that the Batman logo is what you're seeing. You're not seeing the filament of the bulb. And they said that Riley and Nathan are overtly lying. And I'm like, not really. If you understand what Nathan's meaning, then you'll understand why. And I can understand why he didn't want to. I don't really agree with him. I think that we should have presented it because it wasn't, we could just say it wasn't the Batman logo. They can't prove that it is the Batman logo. Okay. We can prove it is a light source, but we can't prove what. But we can still see it. It's not over the curve of the earth, is it, morons?
That wasn't the main reason why I didn't want to argue about it. That wasn't the main reason. That was one of the reasons that I said would come up in discussion when you haven't got the image on screen. But what is the image? So on today's live show, we're talking about your very obvious images of the Isle of Man and them looming, and you can see it's obvious, clear as day. Or Auntie's picture of a clock. You can pretty much tell the time on. Then we've got a black... 1440p image with 3 pixels flashing in a particular sequence. Now, obviously, it didn't look like that for me from the beach. It looked very different. You know, it wasn't pitch black. Yeah, it was very dark, but you could just about make out where the island was, and you could see the light flashing on it in the sequence that it flashes. So it was cut and dry for me, but the imagery, because it's in the middle of the bloody night, and you're looking at something 30 miles away, is not the greatest of imagery. So from the perception of the guys watching the argument, they go, well, what are they actually talking about here? And they put it on, and it's 3 pixels flashing in a certain sequence. I just didn't see it as that strong. For me personally, extremely strong. I didn't think that was possible. We'd argued about it, right? And I'm like, nah. Yeah. And then your missus came in and was like, you can see it now. And I'm like, grab your stuff to my wife, and we went out and immediately went and looked at it, and I was like, oh my God.
Well, do you remember when Miles Delia Davis said that he went and got his telescope from one of the high roads, and he said he could see the lighthouse from there, and he said his words were akin to, if I could see the lighthouse from down on the car park, perhaps, then there would be a conversation. So that kind of set the bar rolling, and the ball rolling. It was a case of, right, can we see the lighthouse from the car park? And that was the reason why that video originated. Obviously, now Miles, the little slithering little snake that he is, just ignores that he ever said that. But the point is, we can see the lighthouse flashing from the car park. Again, you should not be able to see it behind the curve of the earth. It's not visible, but you can see it.
But by contrast, when Slice Barkane did an almost exactly the same thing in terms of the Isle of Man itself, you went down to the beach. You talked about that on the live show today. Did it get a reaction? No. Would it have got a reaction with the lighthouse? I don't think so. If reactions are what we're going for, and at the time we were looking to debate the subject so we got a better understanding of it, because we didn't fully understand the begging the question fallacy that the whole argument took place in.
I gotta drop. I've got to go somewhere before the shop shuts. I'll catch you guys in a bit.
See you later. Hey QE, by the way, sorry I didn't welcome you earlier. I'm in the middle of talking about video games, which was obviously far more important.
Obviously.
You can play video games now. You've got a PC. I mean, I'm sure you'll while away the hours playing Dota or something, right?
I don't play video games.
No, me neither, but, you know, you can.
So Anthony buggered off.
Yeah, right at the point that I was telling him about. I thought he got banned from Wikipedia. But there we go. That was how I understood it. He didn't say those words, though. He said he got bored at the end of the conclusion.
Well, you brought up a new citation that has the word replace the Newtonian laws of motion. That wasn't Wiki. That's Caltech.
Do you have that to hand?
I do.
Any chance you can present it, please?
Nice.
1 second.
So while QE's looking
John?
for that, just while QE's looking for that, so this particular citation, I just assumed Anthony, because this is his baby, right? He likes to argue about gravity all the time, and it just hasn't surfaced. It's not really been presented. I don't know if it's because it hasn't been argued about. It's been mainly Coriolis, but well, I've got you up. Oh, why isn't it? Oh, there we go.
Better?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, so it's the Caltech article that we went over before. And it's sitting right here. Einstein, well, let's read the whole thing. Excuse me, thank you. Einstein provided 10 equations relating the metric, a tensor with 10 independent components, describing the geometry of spacetime, to the material energy momentum tensor, also composed of 10 components, one of which was to our previous. I can't see that. These Einstein field equations, in which both of the previously mentioned constants G and C figure as parameters, replace Poisson's equation. Here's the rub. Einstein also replaced the Newtonian law of motion by the statement that free test particles move along geodesics, the shortest curve in space-time geometry. Replaced. Right? So we're going to need a new definition for that word. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So, just FYI, you're about 2 or 3 inches too close to your mic. So, your horrible digital gain thing is trying to regulate gain, which it can't. So, it's digitally compressing you when you're a bit loud, and it's sounding horrible.
Brother.
And also, because you're a bit too close, you're also causing what are called plosives. Pop. I don't know if I can get mine to do it. Pop. That sound. That's a plosive.
I'm going to solve that problem. How about this? A little better?
Yeah, that is better. What did you do?
You still got my screen shared?
Yeah.
Yeah, right here.
Oh, you just turned it down. Jolly good.
Yeah.
But you can't solve plosives by turning the gain control down. You have to
I know. I'm going to solve that by another. Look, it popped up again. Look, it's popping up.
You're not causing it now, so whatever you've done is better. So you're not popping the mic with.
All right, you want me to read it again?
No, it's fine. No, it came through clear enough. That's why I didn't interrupt. It wasn't worthy of me interrupting you, but we're in the after show. It's fine,
Okay.
Oh, I didn't see you there, Flatzoid. I didn't even introduce you. My bad. Good to be here, mate. Yeah, that's good to have you, Flatzoid. So what else you got going on later on when this show ends, Ranty? On your show? Bloody hell.
Yeah, bloody hell, I was up the ladder. No, I wasn't. I was behind a bed. Tonight, yeah. Just chit chat. I've got Brian coming on tomorrow to do a presentation. That's he's done a few flat earthers, so he's coming on tomorrow to do a pres. But I think I've got Gleam coming on tonight. Tony. I can't think who else now. There's people lingering, but I think I might title the show, Flat Earth Proofs this time, and start, just go over some of the older stuff that's been long forgotten about, but still super important. Like those images that you play in the background.
Yeah.
They're all Flat Earth Proofs.
Yeah, absolutely.
You look at the clock tower, you look at those things. It's flat Earth proof, and they're not just pretty pictures. They shouldn't be there if you live on a sphere. You shouldn't be able to see them.
Cool. I can't wait. So that's starting in. Let's just get the time right. About 4 minutes time on Ranty Flat Earth when this show ends.
Cool.
I was thinking. This came up on Discord because the ballers are always arguing angular size, why you can't see the curve as angular size, but the difference between measuring what you should see or drop. Maybe at some point whoever can do that better than me, go over that maybe, why the angular size isn't a good argument.
Oh, the double drop argument. That's one of Anthony's. He's not here at the moment, but yeah. So that was probably around show 100, 110. And Anthony's pointing out that you'd have to have a double effect, i.e. if you're going to account for how much things drop behind the sphere, which they do, you're also going to have to account for how small they've got with perspective, i.e. there's a double mathematical equation. They're never going to. It's a hijacking of perspective, so why would they ever include it if that's the very thing that they've taken to give you their presuppositional mathematics? But there we go, that was Anthony's point. So yeah, you're right, Paul.
Angular size of what?
Angular size of the target.
Or the so-called spherical Earth that you only
that's what I thought.
Part of an angle.
Oh, did I
That's what I thought you were saying. How do you get an angular size of the Earth?
Well, I guess maybe not necessarily angular size might be a bad thing. Is you're only seeing I used the wrong word. It's degree. You're only seeing a very small degree of the so-called sphere, and the difference between measuring inches and feet over a degree.
I'm not getting it.
I'm not getting it either now.
Well, I'm just saying, like they say, because we're so small and so to speak, that we can't see the curve because we're only seeing such a small degree of the so-called spherical Earth.
Oh, we can see the curve. No. Wait a second. This is a little convoluted. Soundly says we can see the curve. So who are you talking about specifically?
So does Mick West. It's calculable. So I've figured out where the confusion's lied. Paul's talking about the horizon, correct?
Yes, that's the horizon.
Right, that's not what we're detailing. We're detailing the horizon as an obstruction known as Earth curve. Slightly different. Convoluted, yes. When you are talking about the edges of the horizon bending down, because in their model, it's the edge of a sphere, and you'd see curvature. Now, we would argue in that instance, when reifying that arbitrary position where the sky meets the ground into the curve of the Earth, that would increase its curve as you rose in altitude. What Ranty is talking about is the obstruction and drop caused by viewing something at a distance, and how much Earth curve obstruction they claim would be between you and the item observed. So the confusion's come in because when you said angle, I assumed you meant angular size of the target, whereas you're talking about the degree that you should see of curve in the horizon when raising in altitude, which is different. Same reification.
Either direction. I mean, one is looking on the x-axis, the other one is looking on the y-axis. So if you're going to see curvature on the x-axis of my vision, the higher you go, this should be more pronounced on the y-axis, and that's kind of, I guess they're saying you will never see it on the y-axis because your degree of vision is so small that you won't see it. I think that's what I've been hearing on Discord.
Yeah, well, that's another one of Ranty's demonstrations that he did with those wind turbines. So yeah, you look down the x-axis and you can see them with perspective getting smaller, but they call that curvature. And then you look on the y-axis and there is no curvature. There's flat as a pancake, but you're looking at it across rather than down the line of these turbines, and therefore you can. That was the eureka moment when we went, right, it's not just that they've ignored perspective. So that's where Anthony's saying there's a double effect. You need to include perspective in your maths. Well, it went beyond that when Ranty presented those turbines side by side, because you go, well, no, this isn't that they've just excluded perspective, because I used to say perspective excluding curve calculator, and QE pulled me up on it. It's like, no. They haven't excluded perspective. They've hijacked perspective. And then QE showed us how, with the mathematics versus the sphere mathematics, they're the same. All they've done is hijack perspective. So that was the word hijack quite specifically came from Quantum Eraser.
It just thinks to me, if you can see curvature at 3 miles, you should start seeing on the y-axis, because you actually have a wider field of view, so there should be more pronounced view of the curve on the y-axis. Yeah, that would be my logical take on it.
If it was the edge of the Earth obscuring things, but that isn't what the horizon is. So even if it did do that, right? So I know what your argument's fairly sound. Other than if it did do that and someone presented it to me, I'd still dismiss it. So what if you can show the horizon curving down? It's not an actual location. With that, I'll give one last plug to Ranty Flat Earth, and if he started on time, he should have actually had his broadcast going by now. albeit for a minute or so. So tune into Ranty Flat Earth Chit Chat, which should be starting now over on Ranty Flat Earth channel. A massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this live and after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the Premiering Stream audience for tuning in, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!